Yeah, recording.
All right, I'm calling to order the Warrenville Public Library District regular meeting of the Board of Trustees on Wednesday, November 17th at 7:04 p.m. And so we will do our roll call. Trustee Lazan. Here. Trustee Ritzika.
Present.
Trustee Warren.
Present.
Trustee Pika.
Present.
Trustee Richardson. Here. Trustee Stahl.
Present.
Also present are Director Whitmer, Assistant to the Director Davis, and Paul Dobershin, and Cynthia Mikowski, Kathy Gatos, and Mary Kelly Marquez online. All right, let's go to our first thing, and that is to approve the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Do we need a closed session?
I don't believe so.
No, I don't see that. So I would suggest removing items 19 and 20.
Okay. All right, so we're going to remove 19 and 20.
I move that we approve the agenda with the elimination of items 19 and 20 as written.
Second.
So that was, motion was made by Trustee Pika and seconded by Trustee Lazan. And so we are going to go ahead and approve that. Is this a
This is a voice. Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is motion carries and the agenda is approved as amended. Any presentations?
None this evening.
Okay. Public comments? Don't seem to have any public at the moment.
Don't have any public.
Any correspondence?
None.
Oh, okay, so if our secretary could please read the consent agenda.
Sure. Item A, approve minutes of the October 20th, 2021 regular board meeting. B, receive and file financial report for October. C, certify compliance with the Truth in Taxation Act. D, adopt ordinance number 21-22-03, levy ordinance for fiscal year 2021-2022.
Okay. And if I could have a motion, please.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as read.
A second.
That motion was made by Trustee Pika and seconded by Trustee Ritzika. And we will do a voice vote. Trustee Pika.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Ritzika.
Aye.
Trustee Lazan.
Aye.
Trustee Stubb.
Aye.
Trustee Richardson.
Aye.
And Trustee DeRocher votes aye. Motion carries. All right. If I could have a motion for page 23. Approval
I
of
move that we
payments.
pay the invoices in the amount of $958,047 for the period of October 21st, 2021 through November 17th, 2021, including electronic payments and checks number 8500 through 8547. Checks number 8503, 8507, and 8520 are voided.
Second.
Thank you. Trustee Pika made that motion and Trustee Stoll seconded. We'll do a voice vote. Trustee Stoll.
Aye.
Trustee Richardson.
Aye.
Trustee Pika.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Ritzika.
Aye.
Trustee Lazan.
Aye.
And Trustee DeRocher votes aye. Motion carries. All right. Item 8B, approval of transfer of funds. If I could have a motion.
I move that we transfer $200,000 from commercial checking account to operating checking account.
Thank you. That motion was made by Trustee Stahl and seconded by Trustee Ritzika. That is also a roll call vote. Trustee Richardson. Aye. Trustee Stahl.
Aye.
Trustee Lazan.
Aye.
Trustee Ritzika.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Pika.
Aye.
And Trustee DeRocher votes aye. Motion carries. Moving on to unfinished business. We did look a little bit at the staff report. This is item 9A on page 27 last month. And so we have a little bit more detail this month. And I don't believe we need to have any action taken on that staff report, but we will have to take action on the per capita grant application. So I just wanted to state that I had made some notes here that I was just there's so much detail here, and I'm so appreciative of all of the work of all of the staff. I think that this probably every staff member here probably had some aspect to do with this, and the department heads had a lot of work to do on this. So I'm very appreciative. Thank you, department heads, all of you that are here, and Sandy and Jackie. Thank you so much. I was happy to see this section in chapter 3 about reviewing the revising the job descriptions and creating a new pay and wage scale and how it's relating to our retention issues. And I'm really feeling like this will be a good step forward for our retention issues.
So I guess, so I had a few questions, like, are there benefits that say other libraries offer that we're not able to? I mean, and I'm not talking about the usual, whether it's, you know, healthcare or salary, or as much as it is, like, is there something outside the box that isn't a traditional benefit to employees? But I don't know if there's, I was just curious if there's, because I know sometimes we struggle as to how you can, I don't know, keep people interested and motivated and not get into, I guess, a rut. So I didn't know if there were other things out there that we might not be aware of.
I'm not really aware of anything that is caught on. I don't know if anybody else is, other than just the standard everyday benefits, you know, insurance, paid time off, sick leave, those sorts of things. And we do have access to surveys of public libraries for those types of benefits. So definitely when we're looking at benefits, we'll be kind of benchmarking ourselves with those things. And probably we'll be surveying our staff to see what is important to them. But in terms of, and I can ask Paul or Jackie if they've seen anything out of the box at other libraries, or any of you that are on the call. I know a big hot button topic is the ability to work from home, which is something that we can consider. It's challenging. Part of it is challenging in my mind because there are some positions that lend themselves more to working from home than others. And then there's, you know, is it fair that some positions would get to work at home, others wouldn't? You know, do we really have the number of staff that makes that a possibility, that wouldn't leave us in a, you know, in a spot if someone were to call in sick? How does that work, you know, in terms of, I don't know, scheduling for that face-to-face service that we're having here at our public service desks? You know, how do we serve the public who are walking into our buildings? Would that be detrimental to that service? So, you know, that's one thing that definitely has come out of the pandemic that I think probably people would like to see, but there would definitely have to be parameters set up for that in terms of, you know, what the expectations would be. And probably even some technology support for that. You know, how do we support not only the laptop situation, but is there a way to support, you know, do we route phone calls to somebody who's working from home? So they are providing phone support for our teachers. So there are lots of things. That working from home is probably something that telecommuting as a benefit would be something. I don't know, does anybody have anything else that they've seen at another library or any place that would be an out-of-the-box benefit for staff? Any staff? Paul?
Just some things that I've seen, not necessarily in the library field, but like 4-day work weeks is something that's super popular right now. But just flexibility, I think in general is what a lot of people are looking for, especially if they are parents, if they are, you know, maybe have their parent living with them, that they're helping out too. But I think we're doing pretty good job flexibility in hours. But I think this 4-day work week is something that I've seen in other industries.
That's a good point.
And then I saw that we're going to consider reinstating the library suggestions box, and I didn't know if that's something possibly considering for employees or even just for them to participate, say in but just one suggestion box for everybody. So
I would say that my experience with suggestion boxes is strictly from a school point of view, but it's problematic. I don't see it as much problematic with the public here giving suggestions, but especially if a parent or a person or a member has a concern and they're not willing to put their name on it, it's not like you can do a whole lot about it. I mean, you can try to address it as best you can, but you can't address it with that person. It really, so in terms of an employee suggestion box, I find that really difficult to be able to have it be effective in any way, because you really can't address it with a particular person. Now, you can request that a person put their name on something in a suggestion box, but they may or may not do that. You know, it's very problematic. I like the idea of the openness and the openness of it, because it gives people a way to, in a very non-threatening way, give their feedback, but it also opens things up if there really is a concern that you can't address directly with someone, and talk to them face to face and see really what's going on here. And that's been my experience. So anyway, I just
so we just recently did,
I'm not saying we shouldn't do it.
Thank you. No, I appreciate those comments.
yeah, some of it is we just started one at our office, which at least, you know, the managers, I guess the managers are the ones that review it. And then again, we have an employee newsletter that then, you know, it's based on not necessarily so-and-so suggestion, but again, based on suggestions received, we're, you know, this is working on it. So, I mean, again, I was just bringing it up because the experience that it's having a very positive effect on our workplace, because before you might say something in management and that's the end of it. You never heard anything else about it. Nothing else is done with it. So it's not so much that just another way, I guess, for employees to communicate, and that's where voices are heard. So I mean, I understand, especially with this being a much smaller office than we have, but
well, it engages people in a process then.
right, exactly. So, and I mean, I don't know to what extent people are doing it anonymously or putting their name on it. So, you know, maybe there are things that are, you know, just one-on-one rather than, you know, don't know what may be a benefit for the whole lot. But
One of my concerns about suggestion boxes always has been, if you put a suggestion box out, that means you're open to suggestions and you need to be prepared to act on those suggestions. Maybe you can't always provide a solution. I mean, honestly, in our experience here at the library, our suggestion box is really a attaboy or pat on the back box for the public. The majority of things that come into that box are complimentary.
That's very nice.
Which I think that is a great thing for staff. That's a good thing. Occasionally we'll have a concern or a complaint or a suggestion for something that we could change. And typically we used to discuss those at the management team level, see if there's anything we can do. But to your point, Barbara, if it's an anonymous suggestion, so many times it would be so helpful to be able to reach out to that person and discuss it with them in a little more detail. because many times what's stated on that form is just the surface, the tip of the iceberg, and there is a lot of other things on that that could be impacting that.
Also subject to interpretation
Exactly.
of what's written.
Right. Right. So I think we'll just open the public suggestion box up again, just as a way, you know, it's an opportunity for people to share feedback. And maybe it's not a suggestion box, but maybe it's a feedback form or something. We'll look at it and figure out how we can do it.
I like the term feedback. Is that a physical box or will it have an online presence as well?
We can try to do both.
I just was curious.
Yeah, I think it's helpful, and I can talk a little bit more to Jamie and her staff. But I think in the past, sometimes it's helpful if somebody has a suggestion or a request. When they're at, typically those things come through a public service desk, usually the checkout desk. And it's nice for the staff to be able to say, oh, you know, here's a form you can fill out, bring it back next time. Or if we do have an online option, it could be at the bottom of it, you know, you can go here.
That's what I was just offering
Yeah.
both sides, because there are some people who prefer to do things online.
Right. But certainly food for thought. Yep. And to Heather's point about staff and.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand. I was, like I said,
Right. We can explore that. My preference is for staff, if they have suggestions, the coach should go to their manager.
then my last one was regarding the ADA. Do we have any way to identify what ADA needs made in our community? Because sometimes I feel it's so easy to project what we perceive and say pigeonhole certain or obvious groups when there may be other, I don't know, groups out there or other needs that we may not be needing. I guess it's the difference between, say, providing books in Braille versus audiobooks. If there's more, you know, which one might there be more need, just like children, where you're doing, you know, working on our outreach to the Hispanic community and, you know, thinking that they might need more resources in Spanish rather than something more to transition. So that's, I just didn't know, and even at that, trying to get the word out or being able to make contact with, I don't know if there's any support groups. I know that, I think it's Bauer has a large disability, I don't want to say population, but that's where like a lot of the District 200. So I didn't know if, I guess I would better provide and make contact and see what needs might possibly.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's why I test two different librarians together their information on these services. Obviously, to reach out to schools and stuff like that, and on the health services to kind of reach out to maybe even some of these newer facilities that came up and kind of get an idea of what they may be looking for. There. But that's it's in the very early stages of it. That's why if you want, you know, both departments and public services, both areas in public services to have that community. But yeah, so to get an actual, you know, steps would be fantastic. And I'm sure we'll find it.
Okay, are there other comments about the staff report? Anybody? Oh, okay. Anything you want to add, Sadie?
Thanks for those questions.
Good. All right, we're going to move on then to new business. And we're on page 42 then. If I could have a motion to authorize the staff to submit the per capita grant.
So moved.
Awesome. A second? Second. Thank you. So, Motion was made by trustee Warren and seconded by trustee Luzon. And so do we have any discussion before we do our vote on this? No discussion? All right. This is a voice vote.
I think we can do voice vote.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Wonderful. Do you have enough for that, Jackie? Okay, good. All right, moving on to page 52. We have a presentation, I believe, from Paul about this, don't we? Or not a presentation, just comments about the Illinois Libraries Present.
Paul, do you just want to give a really brief overview?
Yeah, absolutely.
Got a great written proposal.
So what it is essentially is a pilot program for virtual live virtual program for libraries across whatever the state that joins this consortium, if you will. And we would pay a flat fee, but we would be get access to a large virtual events like all the business like we did one value author. So like stuff like that that we normally would usually at our price point. But if they get a bunch of libraries signed up, and especially larger libraries, is going to drive their costs down. So the pilot program, which runs from January to June, is for our budget size is $375. But that gives us at least 6 virtual events, if not more, so at least one per month that we need to have our members join virtually or even come into the library and kind of do it on like a session like this. And typically, when it comes to like that, the one presenter so
Yeah,
it's a pretty good state.
super reasonable. And who's in charge of actually creating the programs?
So there's actually several committees that are part of the present. And so far, the biggest libraries that I've seen the part of it right now is Oak Park, Schaumburg, Arlington Heights, Warrenville, and
So the program is done by committee?
it is.
And is that something that you might get involved in?
I believe so. Yeah, they are asking for.
Now, will these programs and are they like one time only doing, or will they go to the YouTube channel or?
It depends on the presenter and how they usually present it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. They will know that they have time. So,
It's like the one time this last fall was like a program here, but then there was another program at another library. Right. And then it was like, well, I can't be in 2 places at the
exactly.
same time. Yeah, stop it. They fall into that frustration, like I want to watch that, but then I want to,
Okay. I do. So there is no additional cost that would be involved other than the $375 for the 6 months. No, and I'm hearing there's only going to be 6 programs, or would there be additional possibilities?
There's at least 6
At
programs.
least is the
Yeah,
key
at least
word.
once a month, if not 1 to 2.
Okay.
How it should be. Yes. And to my understanding, yes, 375 is the program for the half year. And it's like just marketing materials and then.
I think, like you said, even if there's 6 programs for $375, that's much better than what we spend now.
Absolutely.
And I'm pleased to hear some of the larger libraries in our vicinity are already involved, because the more libraries that get involved, the more money we get.
Exactly.
I just pulled up the list on the website. It looks like there are at least 12 libraries that have already committed. Our deadline for passing the intergovernmental agreement is December 31st. So I expect there'll be many more libraries joining in the next month. But some of the libraries include Arlington Heights, Downers Grove, Evanston, Oak Park, and Schaumburg. So those are very large libraries, which is a solid beginning.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Other questions or comments? I love the idea.
That would be really, I guess I'd want to make sure that you're talking about, saving money on what we're spending now. We don't forget local people. And that's really important to support our local authors,
Right.
and travelers, whatever.
This would not be our only source of programs.
No.
No.
Yeah, we just
I
had
think
a-
that's to Jill's question.
Right.
Because I'd hate to give up people, what's the woman's name? Leslie Goddard or the other one. who's now doing quite a few.
Yeah, no, I know. We've had a lot of interesting programs with people.
Maybe we'll even cook again someday.
Yeah, I don't think that's a great, I'm glad you brought that up. The intention isn't to supplant what we're already doing. And these are virtual programs, which have a totally different feel from actually having someone physically here in the building.
All right, so could I have a motion?
Sure. I authorize staff to submit a membership interest form for Illinois Libraries Present and authorize staff to prepare the required intergovernmental agreement for approval of December 15th, 2021 board meeting.
So you're moving for us to authorize. And did we have a second?
Second.
And that was trustee Skull with the motion and trustee Pico with the second. We could do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Wonderful. Good luck with that, Paul. And we'll definitely want to hear more about it and how we think it goes as it unfolds.
Yeah, we're excited.
I do actually have another follow-up question. Is there then after the 6-month pilot program, do you imagine it would be a yearly program, or do you think it'll just be a part of the year?
I'm assuming it will become an annual membership if it's being seen.
Okay,
I hope so at least.
good. All right. Thank you.
And just a quick follow-up, should it not pan out, for lack of a better term, as anticipated? Is there any contract, or, I mean, we could just elect not to spend the money for the next 6 months, or if we're in it for 2 years and find it not helpful to our library system, we could just.
I actually think we'll know more about that when we have not seen the intergovernmental agreement yet, but I have a feeling those terms will be spelled out in that
Just
agreement.
was curious what the termination clause.
Okay, good. All right, now we're going to move on to page 55, the electricity supply contract. So
I can just kind of introduce it. Yes. So Paul Kellis, who is from Vanguard Energy, who we worked with in the past for our electric supply contract, reached out to me about our existing contract, which will expire in May of 2022. He is recommending, for various reasons outlined on his report, he's recommending that we move forward and try to lock in our energy prices sooner rather than later. So he's able to put our account to bid. As you can see, he has a nice little graph on page 57 that shows what is happening with electricity prices. They've just gone up exponentially here. So we signed our last contract in 2018 when the price was just under 3 cents. And now it's looking like things are going to be closer to 4 cents per kilowatt hour. So he just reached out to me and I said I would ask all of you if you have a preference for how long our next electricity contract should be for. He can get us quotes anywhere from 1 year up to 5 years. So it's really about what the board is comfortable locking in, you know, how long you want that price locked. But so that's one thing to know is the duration, the terms of the contract, or the amount of time that will be locked in. If you want to even go to bid right now, or if you want to wait a month or two and see what's happening, And then the last piece is if you want to put a cap on that fixed energy price, or if you want to just authorize me to work with him and select the lowest cost provider, regardless of what the price is for the term that you prefer.
I'm sorry, when does our current contract expire? Is it 2022?
May, yes, of 2022. In about 6 months.
Well, I feel like the trends are that things are going to be getting more expensive, and I feel like the longer we wait, the more expensive it's going to be. You know, if we get closer to May, I could be wrong, but I feel like everything's trending upward right now in terms of energy. And I think that we should do as long of a contract as we can, because I think it's just going to get more expensive out there as the years go by. I could be wrong, you know, and we did see a pretty significant drop, and it's like sometime between 2019 and 2020, but and we might be kicking ourselves at some point, but I don't know. What does everybody else think?
I would agree with
I
you.
agree with you. I mean, energy costs will be going up. I mean, right now, the current inflation, that is going to stop. I mean, once people start working, you know, and shipping and everything else will stop. But energy will always go up. How much is, I mean, on this energy rate, will any of that come from alternative energies?
I do not know that. That's something that I can ask him. We can specify if you want, like renewable energy to be part of the supply.
At least get close on it, see what we're,
I
we
mean,
can compare it
exactly.
to other things.
Because there's a lot more green energies available now than before, so.
Right. Let's not put a cap on it. Let's go with the lowest price.
Well, I think we
Well,
should,
I think we do need
in
that.
relationship to what's available out there, I think that having a commitment to some renewable energy is not a bad thing. It just depends on how it's reflected
Right,
in the
if
price.
it's double the cost, and that's a
Right.
different story.
Right.
So what I can do is I can get back to him, I can ask him that, and I can bring that information back to next month's meeting.
That would be
And then we
good.
can go
And I
from
know
there.
that is extending our time out a little bit, but
that's
I think that
It's worth exploring.
it's good to explore it. So do we have to take action?
I don't think you have to take action. I think I have the longest term possible. We're in agreement with that. And that you're interested in seeing some prices that would include renewable energy.
Yes.
And maybe he can give me some feedback on, you know, what does it look, I don't know if there probably are contracts that are 100% renewable energy versus 50% or 10%. But I'll get some information and I'll bring that back to you next month.
Especially if there's not like a big, you know,
Right.
100% is double, well, then we don't want that, you know.
Right. But if we can at least include some.
Yeah.
And it's not price shock, right?
Exactly.
Okay, now, so at what point does it capture the price, or is it the price that's in effect at the point that we renew versus say he finds something inexpensive, you know, say something that we decide on in March?
No, so he would take our account to these different energy suppliers, and on a specific date, they would respond with their prices on that date.
Okay.
And then you would authorize me basically to sign that contract that date. And then that price would go into effect when our contract expires. It would be to proactively sign a contract for future energy. That makes sense?
It does.
Yeah.
And that he might be able to describe how this ancillary works, where some is passed through and some is some
It's
kind
all
of
passed
fixed
through.
amount. And I thought it was all passed through anyway.
It is.
So
all
no matter
passed
what
through.
they put there, it's still going to get passed through.
Correct.
It's kind of like your
those-
AT&T bill. So it's, they have all kinds of fees and add-ons and
Right, the
Fuel
line loss,
adjustments
capacity, transmission, and ancillary, those are, most of those are, they fluctuate year to year. We just don't know what those are gonna be, and they're set by the utility, by ComEd, the people. So, I mean, we've been very fortunate. We've had a very low rate for energy costs for a few years. Whereas those transmission costs have been actually almost twice as much as the actual energy costs. So, and they're gonna level out a little bit, I think, but that'll be coming, but.
And if he sees anything that would be coming up as we wind up coming into this greenhouse gas elimination and the reduction in coal, that if we go with the lowest cost, then there might be a penalty for using coal that would be a tack on.
That would be something to explore for sure.
I mean, it's going green. It's going green. So we ought to be thinking about jumping into that earlier rather than getting stuck with a penalty or some other fee that they throw in there because, okay, your cost is going to double because you've got coal fuel coming or coal fuel generators coming through. And the sooner the better, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the news in the last month, because of this thing that's been going on in Scotland, you know, it's basically the message is we haven't been doing enough. We need to do more. So let's get on it, people.
So those types of questions, I just have to say, those types of questions, I think I need to invite him to the meeting so that you can ask those things directly. I mean, I can let him know that's something you're interested in hearing about. I am not comfortable asking that and then bringing that information back.
Reporting that.
It will just generate more questions and we'll be, I'll be a middleman. And
yeah, that's a great idea. Why don't you invite him?
Okay,
and maybe
the January meeting?
Yeah, maybe we could do that at the January meeting, or do you think that's waiting too long, Sandy?
I don't have a preference. If you want January, that's fine.
Well, let's do that sooner rather than later. I guess.
Yeah, so I think we kind of need to lock something in sooner. We would get a better rate.
So December?
Please.
If he's available.
Yes, if he's available.
Okay, so you will have the auditor and energy. Okay.
We bring cake.
I do
Or at least
have
Christmas
more
cookies.
chocolate beginning.
Chocolate.
a related question about energy. I noticed already as of 10/31, we have used almost 40% of our budget. Is that?
There's a reason for that.
Okay, that's where I was going.
Does Jake, you know what the reason is? We missed paying the June electricity bill in June. Somehow.
I just was curious.
So we've got an extra month of electricity
in this
year budget.
Okay, thank you.
I think. Am I correct?
You think that's correct? Yeah. So that will run over for the rest of the year.
Correct. Unless we decide to close early or Monday a week and we can shut off.
No,
I know.
just,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I don't think
That's a
we're
benefit.
level. Yeah.
Have the lights there.
Give you all flashlights for them.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready to move on then? We're gonna go to page 59 to the whistleblower policy. This is pretty straightforward. It was just something that needed to be added. Sandy, do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, no, I think the explanation here is, okay, we cleaned up the existing policy. Really nothing has changed about the existing policy other than we've added, specifically added the fact that if someone feels they are a whistleblower and they reported something to us and then they feel that they've been retaliated against, that then that individual has the right to file a complaint with our auditing official, who we are saying is the county state's attorney.
Okay. Questions?
So if for some reason it involves either, I know that we've obviously been very fortunate or very scrupulous that there isn't, but knowing that I've, reading about some of the situations, some directors and trustees get themselves into, how, whether it's one of the trustees feeling that another trustee, or that how does that necessarily work? Is that when it would have to go to the county state's attorney, or?
No, so reporting the initial suspicion, it gets reported to the library director. If it's the library director, it gets reported to the board of trustees. If it's a trustee, I think then it goes to the board. Somebody, it would go to Barbara as the board president, probably. If it's Barbara, I think that who's vice president, Rick, it would probably go to Rick. And if we have to, at some point, get an outside independent third party involved to investigate, that would be a step that we would take. But that initial report is to be made in writing, depending on who you're reporting on. It will come either to me or to the board.
But this particular addition was if someone feels that they've been retaliated, that's what their course of action is.
Because prior to this, the state statutes did not specify.
Well, yeah, reading in
what that outcome should be. And I know the attorneys have said, we could be just silent on this matter, but I'd rather have our policy clearly outline that we're going to let the county handle that situation. And there are steps the county needs to, they need to produce some procedures to follow for that. And it's too soon for them to have that in place yet. So,
is there any particular reason we chose to look at this policy at this time?
I'm 5 months behind reacting to a memo from the attorneys.
I just was
no,
curious.
It's been on
my mind wanted to know why we were.
It's just been in my folder. There was a memo that the attorney sent to us in July. It's just one of those things.
Fine, I just was that.
All right, so could I have a motion that's listed on page 59, please?
Maybe approve revisions to this board.
Great. Second. I think that Sandy got in there quicker.
Yeah.
So the motion was made by trustee Richardson and seconded by trustee Luzon. Since this is a policy change, we need to do a voice vote or a roll call vote. Trustee Luzon. Aye. Trustee Ratzika. Aye. Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Pika.
Aye.
Trustee Richardson. Aye. Trustee Stahl. Aye. Trustee DeRocher votes aye. Motion carries. All right, now we're moving on to Sandy's report on page 62. Anything else you want to add?
I don't have anything to add to my report.
I would just like to second what Barbara said earlier. I think everything that went into the part of the levy request and the per capita grant. A lot of work. Great job. Thank you to all participants.
All right, any other comments on the director's report?
Can I ask a couple of questions on the snapshot?
Yes.
Outreach. How does it get to 44 when there's only 3? Is that outreach for that 44 for all the events or just that youth? I'm confused how we got a total of 44.
Maybe Paul can.
Yeah.
Paul can elaborate on it.
So that one was Diana going out to 3 different preschool classes, and then there were 70 students divided by 3. I mean, there were 44 total students.
There were 3 total events.
Yes.
So that's not a total for the entire outreach, it's just for that. Okay, I was reading it incorrectly.
Correct, just for the youth one.
Thank you.
Questions or comments on the director's report? If not, we're going to move on to department head reports, which are starting on page 65. Lots happening here. If there's anybody has any comments on that.
The puzzle's there.
Yes, and already completed.
Yes.
Look at that.
Number 2 is almost done.
And
Yes.
people they don't, doesn't bother them.
That's the
I do have a question about the curbside orders before that far yet. They said that it's 26 in September. I presume that's October, but what kind of things are we doing for curbside? Is that just for, is it solely books? Is it for programs?
I believe that if you're looking at page 68 on Jamie's report, I believe the curbside order is for materials, books, movies,
That's what I wanted to
magazines.
know.
I don't
How we
think,
were using it.
yeah, I don't think that includes crafts.
It is not.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
So it's still the component of that and still buying them. So thank you.
Okay, any other comments on the department head reports?
So I just had a question. So, at what point are we moving into, for Cynthia's replacement? I mean, or is it just going to be training somebody that's currently here to move in?
It's a work in progress. If you, I can talk to you about that outside of the meeting.
Okay. All right, moving on to the president's report. Our next meeting is going to be on December 15th here. And we will have our auditors here, and we will also just decided that we're going to invite Mr. Callis as well. And it looks like we're going to have a tree outside starting on holidays. Who's decorating that?
There is a staff committee led by Mary Kelly.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. Secretary's report.
Well, I will turn it over to my assistant secretary that filled in for me last month. So, if there was anything between last month and this month.
Okay. Nothing's report. Okay. And our treasurer's report.
Everything looks good.
Awesome. Okay. Any items for information or discussion? No. How about trustee comments? Oops, forgot that. Trustee comments?
Well, I would just like to say it was really nice to see the library mentioned in hometown happenings. I commend Kathy or however that happened, but
It was a surprise. You're in hometown happening.
yeah, it was so great. I just went, wow, very nice.
Thankfully, we still have those meters. That was the staff response. Did they call us to see if we still have those? We still have them.
Surprise.
And they've been checked out, so that's good.
And then I would also like to say, I personally think it's great that the staff joins the meeting, whether remotely or in person. It's nice to have instant feedback from the staff. I know it's another commitment. I know it's another hour and a half, but I think it's a great thing that they're doing on a regular basis. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody online.
Yes.
And everybody here. Or one person here.
You too, Jackie.
Yeah.
Yeah, James. I think I asked you, but I don't have.
Well, we're glad you are. All right. We have our final thing. Who would like to?
I'm going to be adjourned.
I second.
Excellent. We are all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
And 7:53.